my Media Prime. This day we are going to be looking at the Anglophone crisis from the perspective of the population, asking the question whether the population can cause a return to peace by forcing both sides of the coin to seek lasting solutions to the crisis, so that once again peace can return to the troubled northwest and southwest regions. We also are going to be visiting what is making news with FECAFOOT and the tribunal for the arbitration of sports, and FIFA that is making the situation complex, asking FECAFOOT to stay, the FECAFOOT executive to stay on till new elections are conducted. We are this day going to be having our panelists as earlier announced on our social media handle. Prince Joel Mukaga is in the studio with us. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening to you, Mr. Leonard. Good evening to my co-panelists. Good evening to the million telespectators of my Media Prime, and particularly to Prime R. Special good evening to the peace-loving people of Mr. J's subdivision.
We also are in the company of the Secretary General of Modekna Party, Tamfu Jones. Good evening and welcome, and Happy New Year.
Good evening, Mr. Combe. Good evening, televiewers. Good evening, my co-panelist, my good brother. And good evening, Cameroonians. It's a pleasure to be here again once more. I think this is the first time I'm here for the year. And I believe we're going to be up to task towards our people. Okay,
you visited the Western region recently?
I am forced to visit the Western region, not of choice, given that that's my road for now. Given the Banso people blocked the road leading to Nkambe. To go to Nkambe, you have to pass through the west, and then you pinch a bit of Adamawa before you can get to Nkambe. And I have been traveling the.
So you drop in Fumban?
I have to drop in Fumban, drop in Fumbod, pass through Kutaba before I get to my place.
Okay, for the very first time, Pastor Kennedy Ejacha is also going to be part of this edition of Prime R all the way from the United States of America. We are glad to have you for the first time. We start by saying Happy New Year to you too.
Thank you very much, and Happy New Year to all the fellow viewers of Prime Time. And the pleasure is mine also to be on this platform where you take, the Anglophone issues and other issues of national interest to the utmost importance, and I believe it's going to be an opportunity for us to weigh in with our own perspective. So again, thank you. Happy New Year to you, and Happy New Year to all fellow listeners and fellow panelists.
Okay, while we are with the arrival of Dr. Akko, John Akko, I'll start with you, Pastor, out there. The topic says, at conflict's crossroad, can Cameroonians cause a return to peace? Do you think that we are actually at the crossroad as far as the conflict rocking the southwest and northwest regions are concerned, with almost both sides not actually knowing how to find the key to bringing back peace?
Well, I'll differ a little bit with your conclusive statement that both sides don't know the key to bringing peace. Right from the get-go in 2016, it was evident that the solution to the socio-political problem as it was in 2016, it was a socio-political problem that escalated into what became a war, which many consider as a war of genocidal magnitude. Maybe we're not yet there, but we're not far from that perspective of a war that is it's extinguishing many villages in the northwest and the southwest region. So they all know that the solution to that crisis is dialogue, because dialogue has always been on the table from the get-go. And I'm a member of the political party in Cameroon that have been preaching dialogue from the get-go. So there was a semblant of dialogue that was organized in 2019, and that was convened by the head of state, President Paul Biya. That was in October 2019. We thought that the conveners of that major national dialogue had come to the full realization of the fact that the only way to a solution was dialogue. But unfortunately, what we realized post that event that was organized in 2019, at the end of 2019, is the gridlock is still there, because people are not just being intellectually honest to acknowledge what needs to be done. And I'm asking myself, do they really want peace? That's a question that I ask myself every day, because the way to peace is right in front of us. We all see it. We all know it. We all know that we need open heart surgical dialogue that's going to be inclusive of everybody that we can identify as a citizen of Cameroon. Whatever nomenclature they're giving to themselves, we all know that we are citizens of one nation that is called Cameroon, with a flag that is green, red, yellow. So those of the government who are saying that they're not recognizing the appellation of Ambazonia, what are you then doing to recognize the identity that you know of them that are saying that they're Ambazonians? The only way you can prove your good faith is by inviting them, bringing them on the table. Let's have that open discussion. You know, no matter how difficult it can be, but we need to have that discussion and kind of like heal our wounds and move forward. If we don't do that,
when I talk
about the solution.
When I talk of crossroads, we see both sides also opposing conditions, because when you listen to the United Nations, they say there is need for dialogue without preconditions. The United States says same, France also, but the separatists will tell you that, okay, if we are coming to negotiate a separation. The government will say we cannot entertain anything that has to do with separation. Don't you think that is where the dilemma rests?
I mean, absolutely, you're right. The dilemma is around this idea of people trying to put a condition to dialogue. I mean, in all fairness, the only condition that is acceptable for dialogue to kick off is that there should be no condition. That's what we are saying. Our condition that we of the SDF are proposing, and the chairman of the SDF, Nijon Frundi, is a very great proponent of that, because he's carrying that our voice. You guys need to listen to him to know that there's a huge fraction of Cameroonians out there who believe that there is a condition to dialogue, and that condition is that there should be no condition.
Okay, there should be no condition. Do you also think that the population is at the crossroads? When you were in the Northwest recently, do they really see with hope that very soon this thing is coming to an end?
I do not think so, Ms. Aliu. I don't think so, because while in Bamenda, I did speak with so many of those who are concerned with the crisis, and one question I asked them was like, aren't you guys, how do you cope on Mondays, and aren't you guys tired? I think a majority of those in the Northwest, like some in the Southwest, are already getting used to Mondays. They're already like getting very adapted to their activities, and they feel that those who have the yam and the knife have still not decided to end the crisis, and they feel that they've been caught in a trap whereby there are two powers that are holding them. And just like the Englishman always say that when two elephants are fighting, it's the grass that suffers. So we have these people, those in the Northwest and the Southwest, who've been caught between two persons. On one hand, you have the government. On the other hand, you have those who are preaching separation. So the people are there and they are like helpless. But it's very normal that they want the war to end. But how do they push it to the table? They do not know which angle to go to. Because in the Northwest, like you will know today, as well as the Southwest, once, for instance, you preach, say you don't want Ghost Town to think it is wrong, you attacked and labeled the name and either sent to the separatists. Once you say the government is corrupt for what you're doing, or maybe when you accuse the separatists for causing what is ongoing to them, causing torture to the people, killing people, and causing a fall in the economy, you are now pushed, on the other hand, to the government. So the people have been caught in between, let me say, between the Red Sea, where on one hand, they have a serpent, and on the other hand,
they have the Egyptians.
Correct. So they are in the middle, and they are just like, whatever comes tomorrow, we are going to do with it. That is why, during my stay in the Northwest Mesalio, the people are getting very used to life. Mondays is a normal day to them. It's just like a Tuesday, it's just like a Sunday. But one thing is for sure, that the people do not admire the crisis. They want that it should come to an end. But who will cause the tables to go round? Is it the government or the separatists? There is one thing on their mind: they want it to end. How does it end? That is where the problem is. Okay,
recently you were in Donga Mantung Division. Is that the feeling you gathered from there?
I was in Donga Mantung Division, and then I came to Bamenda, where I had to ask questions around the town. And I noticed something, that these people are caught in between the web.
Okay.
Because it is sad that living from Commercial Avenue to Bambili, there are 8 police controls on the way. And these 8 police controls all demand settlement from the taxi driver. That's what they call it. They should settle the control. They demand it from the taxi drivers. And we don't have bikes again circulating in the city of Bamenda. Settling this police control, this settlement has at least 1,000 francs. If a taxi driver should leave from Commercial Avenue and settle each police control for 1,000 francs, it means that...
That's the balance for a day.
Yes, it is 8,000 to reach Bambili. How many passengers is he transporting? Because right now in Bamenda, what I notice is that when you carry overload, these guys just feel that they have had their food for a day. So that these malpractices that are being carried on, torture on the population. Another thing I noticed, Mr. Liu, is that the shops that were being sealed by the mayor in Kwen, as the Bamenda Tiri, was another form of torture to the population. Given that he said that people whose shops were sealed are those who were respecting ghost towns. But ironically, Nkwen has been one of the only quarter, not even one of, the only quarter that started respecting ghost towns. Ironically, they started opening and carrying out their activities on Mondays as before. Gradually, things were returning to normalcy in Nkwen. It is so sad to see that it is from that angle again that ghost town is attacked. Instead of the mayor and his other colleagues and collaborators
to focus on other
parts where it is completely locked, they go back to where it is beginning to gain some light. It means that there's an agent provocateur somewhere who is fueling this crisis not to come to an end. If not, how will you explain it? That when light is beginning to come, you go and pour water there for darkness. Because if these separatists say that people should lock their shops on Monday, the people are struggling to open their shops on Monday, you come again and seal their shops. Then you are accepting what the separatists are doing. You are adding pace to the population, because where the population is, they are now just waiting to see a messiah come from somewhere to give them hope, to show them light. That's why you see the people of Kmer. When I talk sometimes about Galajera and Musa Shem for the mayor of Kmer, and this is the doctor of Misaje, people say that I have collected cash from them. No! Go to these places and talk to the people. Let the people tell you about these individuals. I went to the village, the Mwangre village. They told me that there are some teachers around the way from the place because of insecurity. But the lawmaker came there and promised them that he will pay teachers, recruit and pay teachers from his pocket before the government sees what they will do in those schools. When you do like that and your people come to you, will people complain? Nobody will complain. But if you are a mayor who thinks that you will inflict pains on the population by sealing their shops, because now I went around the town. Unfortunately, my phone was off that day. I would have had a voice spot, whereby people were arguing in the taxi that it will not work. Then, ever since this ghost town began, those who tried to open their shops against the will of the pro-Amba and Bazonia had their shops burned down and attacked.
Okay.
But no government official ever came to their rescue. Now the government wants them to open their shop, and now those whose shops are being opened go to negotiate for the shops to be open.
Okay.
Paying from 10,000 to 50,000 francs for their shops to be open. So I don't think this is a society where anybody would love to live in.
Okay, good evening to you, through Nix and Day, who is following the program. I get back to you, Pastor Kennedy. he raised the issue of the need by the population looking for a messiah. Do you think that is what is needed, going by what we have seen so far for the past 4 years?
I mean, he is absolutely right. The population where they are today, they don't know where to turn to, because at the very beginning of the crisis, they had some complaints against the regime in place. The regime was very tyrannical. You know, the regime was infringing on their rights. We know it all started with the teachers clamoring for an improvement of the educational system. And also we had the lawyers who were clamoring for an amelioration of the situation of the judicial system in the Northwest and Southwest region with respect to the civil law or the practice of civil law. Now, what do we have today with those that had presented themselves as the saviors of the people? I'm talking about the Ambazonian extremists who are terrorists, the Ambazonian extremist terrorists. Now, I'm very cautious when I explain this, because what these Ambazonian extremist terrorists have done, they've put some of us in a very serious dilemma where we have to be equating their tyranny with that of a regime that we have rejected, because we have the SDF. Since 1990, we were categorical on the point that we have to flush out the CPDM regime of Mr. Paul Biya. But now, here we have a group of people whose tyranny is beyond pale, is beyond description. Because you would ask yourself, the type of execution that we are seeing in our streets in the Northwest and Southwest region from the hands of these Ambazonian terrorists is unacceptable. The ransoming of our people, the kidnapping of our people. So we have to condemn violence and tyranny from both sides. We will not condemn the CPDM, the Biya regime, for its tyranny, and then give a pass to the Ambazonians for their tyranny. What our people are going through, what they are suffering of from this regime of Mr. Biya, and I will say his acolytes, because finally these Ambazonian guys are acolytes of this regime. They have no respect for the people of Cameroon. They have no respect for the citizens of the Northwest region and Southwest region. So now let me land on that point, please. So the issue right now is the people should be their own saviors. No one will come. There is no providential person that will come to liberate us from the mayhem in which we are right now. So people should rise up, and take the streets peacefully and say enough is enough. It is possible to put an end to this thing if the people take the responsibility of their future in their hands.
Yeah, but you are talking there of legitimating, giving legitimacy to whatever happened. Are you saying that in the beginning the people gave legitimacy to what is happening and have been betrayed now?
No, I don't. No, the people never gave legitimacy to Ambazonian terrorists to go around.
But you said the population was complaining against the CPDM regime and looked onto saviors who turned out to be likened to what they have been complaining about since.
Yeah. No. Okay. Now this is the point. The people needed freedom. They needed self-determination. That's the key. What they wanted is self-determination. And there's a map way to self-determination, which is a federal system. Because let's all remember, on 1st of October 1961, we were a self-determining people in a federation that was called the Federal Republic of Cameroon. So that's what the people wanted. And then we all had this group, this band of people that went on social media, and they fed on the frustration of the people. They fed on the frustration of the people. Remember, let's just think how gruesome these guys were. And that's why from the get-go, we already had anticipated that these guys were not serious guys, because their strategy was predicated around a propaganda that let's go ahead and start fighting with den guns. Let's fight the military. We will ask them, how are you going to fight a well-disciplined military that is well-armed using den guns and machetes? Their answer was, oh no, we want them to kill a good number of us. By the time they would have killed, I mean, the figure that they were giving, that by the time the 1,000th person will be killed in the Northwest, then the international community will come in. And many people believed this propaganda that let them kill us so that the international community will step in. How many people have been killed up to now? And the international community is just still talking about resolutions. And let me guarantee you, nobody will come from anywhere in the international community to resolve the problems of Cameroon. We have to sit on the table. And that's why we still insist on the fact that dialogue is the way. And the only way, it's not a way. Dialogue is not a way. It is the way. Okay. And until we get into that dialogue, we will not get out of this mayhem.
Okay. Dialogue is the only way. Not easy. Prince Joel, the population can hold the separatists to stop this. Do you think they have the power to do that?
Mr. Liu, it's going to be a bit difficult. It's going to be very difficult because we know that we've seen people who've staged protest march. We've had, how do you call them, Bamenda Women Task Force. We've seen same thing in the Southwest. Even at the level of quarters, we've seen people who've come out to denounce what they call the excesses of the separatist fighters. Some have even gone to an extent of denouncing them even on social media. But the issue is, to what extent can they go? That's where the ball of contention, they're helpless. Now, because you have those who attempt to come out and say, okay, we do not want you again. But the next day, pray your God that you don't fall in their trap. There are those who even want to do that, but the fear of what will happen to them should the separatists hold them, makes them to stay quiet. And that is also the same thing, maybe on the other hand, on the part of the military. That's
what I want, whether the population can also cost government.
Sure. But I feel that, let me stay with what you asked me. I feel that the level of the separatists who've seen the people, I've talked with people, those in the Northwest and the Southwest. Do you think you want the crisis to end? A majority want the crisis to end. Even I talking to you, I want the crisis to end. But I just feel that I cannot actually cause that end, because you have two very powerful organs. It's very true that one does not have the legitimacy or the legality, which should be the separatists. Because I talk of the legitimacy, they kill, but they don't have a gun, as per se. Even if they have the gun, they do not have an authorization to own the gun. On the other hand, you have the military that has a gun. But now, how can a common Cameroonian cause the war to end? It's to an extent impossible. That is why we've been clamoring for a genuine dialogue. It's very true that the dialogue that held, many persons wanted that after the dialogue that ended on the 4th of October 2019, many persons felt that, okay, we are out of the crisis. The crisis is going to end, given that we saw both parties.
Are you saying that the population is utterly powerless?
The population is utterly powerless. I've been in the Northwest, I've been in the Southwest, and I've got to talk with the population. On a Monday, Mr. Leo, the population in Bamenda, I was in Bamenda, what they do on Mondays is they hold their small Jangi houses. What they do on Mondays is that Kum Leonard is a friend to Prince, is a friend to Tamfu Junes. What they do on a Monday is, before Monday, they've bought their small 5 liters of mbu, and they get maybe their cola nut, and they sit in the house. The people are already used to Mondays. And it's like, now you ask them, do you want the crisis to end? They say, yes, they want it to end. But how do they cause it to end? Junes brought up a point that is very pertinent. It's a point that I noticed while in the Northwest. In the Northwest, Mr. Leo, it's not like in Douala. In Douala, you only maybe need to show your ID card when maybe you're traveling. That is when you're living out of Douala, or maybe when you go to visit somebody in a police station. In the Northwest, it's not the case. When you move for just say 1 kilometer, you need to show your ID card. And circulation within town. On a Sunday that I was in Bamenda, a friend tells you, boy, meet me at my Trinquen. For you to leave where you are, to go there, you need to pass at least 6 control posts. And at each time, even when you show your ID card, I think that the people are more interested to see where you're coming from. And when they see where you're coming from, it's another problem. So you will not tell me that, Mr. Leo, somebody living in Bamenda, one poor mama who needs to go sell her tomato, maybe in Bamenda, in the market, in what they call the food market, and needs to go through this. She wants it to end. But how can she cause it to end? I just feel that the whole thing is in the hands of the government and not the separatists.
Good evening to you too, Wonja. We know you are following up the program. Andre Dicalo, good evening to you. Milano Blaine, Cassie Blanco, good evening to all of you. Eddie Dandy Awara, Handy Cross, good evening to you. Brian Cypren, good evening to you. Godi New Kongi, who is always watching the program, and to you, Gerard Manjuo. Swilaru Pros, good evening to all of you. Fun Courage, okay. Fun, good evening to you. You should be watching from Canada. Prosperity J, good evening to you. Joyce Morgan, Kum Awa, good evening to you. Destiny Prince, DM Wheeler. It's a discussion, it's not war. We are just sharing ideas. Let's bear one another. Now, this issue, we say the population is helpless. They can't have the courage to confront the separatists, to turn round the table. Do you think that they are also helpless towards the government?
Absolutely, they are helpless.
When you say they are helpless, we saw the population in Sudan bring down the president. We saw women in Liberia. They did wonders. Yeah.
Yes, that was in Sudan. The Cameroonian population is politically very premature.
More than the Sudanese, yeah.
And here in Cameroon, we have seen the attempts of the CRM to galvanize the population to go out for a peaceful protest. Unfortunately, they make announcements, and the government on the other side also target them, and at the end of the day, frustrate all the plans of the peaceful protest. Now, look at what happens in the Northwest and the Southwest. At the beginning of the crisis, we had the population that came out with peace plans rather. If other Cameroonians had joined in the protests all around Cameroon, I don't think we'll be here today. But the other Cameroonians thought that it was an Anglophone problem and there was no concern them. And today it is eating deep into the whole nation. Now, when you go to Bamenda, Mr. Leo, there's this common saying in Bamenda. Because when we go, I put on my face mask and I will walk around town and listen. They say to be safe in Bamenda, you ought to be neutral. You don't talk against the boys. You don't talk against the military.
You just stay quiet.
You just stay quiet in the middle. They have taken the middle position. And it's a very dangerous position. Because when you take the middle position, it means that you are helpless. You can't, because you cannot rebuke the military. How dare you rebuke the military after all? You cannot rebuke the boys in the bush. How dare you? Will you sleep? And we are in a society whereby, at this point in time when we are talking, Mr. Leo, I was in Bamenda, a woman was sweeping her compound early in the morning. And a bullet, she didn't hear the sound of a bullet, of a gunshot. Nobody in that vicinity heard the sound of a gunshot. But a bullet took that woman on her way. And she died. It means the bullet was coming from very far. So you see a society where your life is not even safe, even if you say something or you don't say anything. So the people are really helpless. And when you talk about these people maybe affecting the government to change, it is impossible. This is the government that the officials, those who are in the government, who are English speaking, who will have been telling the government about the pains of their people. Mr. Akanganji said at the early stage of this crisis that there is no Anglophone problem. And this afternoon in Bamenda, he still said that the government, Mr. Biya, has conquered, that Mr. Biya have won this, that the war has been won. So I think that At this point in time, people are helpless and they cannot do anything. Because if we don't accept that there's a problem, if people think that there's no Anglophone problem, then what type of problem are we solving? We cannot solve a problem, we don't acknowledge that there is a problem.
Okay.
Yes.
Pastor, please, let's discuss issues are not persons, please. Let's deal with the issues are not persons. He just raised an issue here that one of the things that did not actually give power to the people to be able to impose itself on either of the sides is because the entire nation did not come out as one man to stop to what was happening in the southwest and northwest regions. Even recently, we've consistently seen the women in the northwest and southwest come out too. Recently, we saw a mobilization in Yaoundé, but as a nation, we've not seen the nation come out to say we want an end to this.
Yes, I think he is absolutely right. And to be honest, I want to dove off my heart to my co-panelists, because you know that's a bold person. Those are the Cameroonians who are really at the front line, not some of the paper tigers that we have here in the diaspora. Like some of us, it is very easy for me in the comfort of my home to sit, put on my Facebook page and spew out whatever hatred I want to spew out, because I know that there's no consequence to it. But when somebody like that, like my co-panelist, I'm sorry that I didn't grasp his name, but when somebody like that, who is in Cameroon, speaks to the extent in which he's speaking and calls upon the government, then you know that there is faith in the future, because some people are carrying this, our struggle. So, coming back to your question, yes, it's true. At the very beginning of this crisis, the other 8 regions, in their great majority, were in denial of the fact that there is an Anglophone problem. And it is because of the way that the government had characterized the situation. The other regions of Cameroon, they were looking at the Anglophones as, first of all, foreigners, not even as part of Cameroon, until it dawned on them that some of these Anglophones are ready to effectively be out of Cameroon. Then they gained interest in trying to understand what was the problem. We all remember that at the very beginning of this crisis, I would say, let's just call it commonly, in the east of the Mungo, would equate the lives of people from the northwest and southwest region to a flag. They went to the point of comparing the burning of a flag as sacrilegious as killing somebody. Because let's all remember that the first victims in this crisis, as of 2017, were civilians, armed civilians that went out and were expressing their constitutional rights by demonstrating for what they believed in. They believed in self-determination, and they were demonstrating peacefully. Let's not forget that at the very beginning of this crisis, it was our brothers and sisters, our children in the University of Boya, that were humiliated to the core. Those images are still there. They're still running in my mind. Let's not forget that that's where this crisis started. It didn't start with Ambazonians shooting guns, kidnapping people and ransoming. No, that's not where it started. It started with peaceful people like Agbombala, peaceful people like Dr. Fontaine, peaceful people like the other guy who is in prison, who is there in Konigi. It started with peaceful people like that, using their bare hands on the streets, calling on the attention of the government. And now, that's why I say that the government is in complicity with these Ambazonian fellows. Because when the Agbombalas were leading the charge, things seemed to be going well, because the government was panicking already, and there were moves towards resolving the long-pending Anglophone problem. But some radicals, some extremist radicals within the CPDM regime said, no, why should we cave in to these little boys, the Agbombala, the Dr. Fontaine? Let's take them and put them in prison, because when we put them in prison, and that was their plan, it's going to give way for the minority radical Northwesterners and Southwesterners that the government can manipulate into a situation of war, and from which they will start the extermination of our people. There is an extermination that is going on right now in the Northwest and Southwest region of young people who are not my age. Those young people that we could define as the future generation of the Northwest and Southwest, they are being killed right now in drawn numbers. And I strongly believe that it is the plan of the government, because let's be clear.
Yeah, but you say when you say it's a plan of the government, are you saying the government did not buy guns and ask people to engage in a war?
No, see, I'll tell you what happened. If at the very beginning of this war, it was peaceful demonstrators that went on and they were marching. There were only 10 guns.
Yes.
That they used. Now, many of the guns that you see that are being used in this war, they are guns that are being planted by the government in our different communities.
Yeah, but we don't.
Few of the guns are coming from our, but they are guns that are being planted. Let the truth be said. And this strategy that the Cameroon government is using, it's not only unique to Cameroon.
Yeah, but Pastor, what we are talking about the population. Can the other 8 regions, since the population of the Northwest and Southwest seems to be watching their words? You heard what they said, that when you are in the Northwest or in the Southwest, you either just chew your words and not identify with a side. Can the other 8 regions, the population in the other 8 regions, cause government and to some extent the separatists to see need to put an end to what is happening?
If we were living in a democracy, I would tell you that yes, it's possible that the majority of the other Cameroonians express their opinion and the government will hear. But we are not living in a democracy. We are living in a tyranny. It's an autocracy in Cameroon. It's not the rule of the majority, because as we are talking right now, the majority of Cameroonians from all 10 regions are tired. I say the majority, and they've been expressing this. Now, the mindset of the other 8 regions of Cameroon has changed as of today. They are no more where they were at the beginning. That's why I still believe in the one Cameroon under a federal system. Because if you see, many Francophones today, and I put it in quotes, many Francophones today are in solidarity with the Anglophones. Many of them are repenting because their earlier position on the Anglophone crisis at the beginning of the crisis in 2016 was informed by ignorance. And when they came into understanding the problem of the Anglophones, many of them have understood that, yes, in some regards, they share the same problems with what the Anglophones are claiming. They share the same. But the only difference is that we have this bicultural inheritance from colonialism. That's the only thing that creates the distinction between the type of challenges that we are facing in the Northwest and Southwest region and the type of challenges that we are facing in all 8 regions.
Pastor,
so, no matter what, just let me finish, please. No matter at this point, based on the institutional functioning in Cameroon, which is not predicated on the voice of the majority, I don't think that the majority saying anything will have an impact. It all depends on, a dynamic of force that would bring the government in place to understand that they are really threatened with what's going on if they don't take action.
Yeah, but government will tell you that they have been taking actions from the creation of a common law bench at the Supreme Court and the creation of a common law department at the level of ENAM.
That's window blind. That's window dressing.
Holding of the major national dialogue, the creation of the DDR centers in the Northwest, Southwest, and a host of others.
Mr. Leonard, let me just ask you something before you go to the next person, because we keep coming with this issue of the national dialogue.
Questions now, Pastor. Okay.
We went to the national dialogue. The government, we had a compromise. That for us, it was a huge compromise. That was called special status. What has the government done with that? So you see that this government is in very bad state.
Okay. Now, if we say the population is helpless to confront separatists and the government, but they have local representatives at the level of the Southwest and Northwest regions. Ooh, some are there, some are not there. Can they not also mobilize to meet them, at least in their respective homes and quarters? They know where they live. We have the mayors, we have the MPs, we have the senators. Can they not mobilize that? You have said that you are representing us. This is the time that it is not the separatists that will tell you to do this or that. We, the population, we want you to validly represent us. If in the past 10 years you've not done anything, this is the time we need you most.
Mr. Liu, there is something that you've raised which I think is very important. While in Bamenda, on a Monday, I took a stroll around town, and the young guy I was moving with, at certain spots, you would point certain individuals. These are the guys. These are the guys. It means that the population knows those who are causing problems to them. And the question I asked him was, okay, what stops you guys then from acting? The issue is, Mr. Liu, as of now, like I've said before, the people in the Northwest and the Southwest have left their destiny in the hands of the Almighty God. I'm saying so because you're asking me why they've not asked the parliamentarians to react, or why they've not asked the local elite.
Isn't it time for them to mobilize and ask the parliamentarians that you guys are in your own day, this is what we want you to do?
I'm coming, Mr. Liu. You should first of all know that the elections that brought some of these parliamentarians to office in the Northwest and the Southwest, we cannot for sure say that there was election as spare elections in the Northwest and the Southwest 100%, because a majority of those who were elected, if the people were to go down to the polls and elect those who have in office today, a majority would not be where they are today. But elections have been held and the parliamentarians are there, the mayors are there. But do the people actually have this power? Do the parliamentarians actually have this power? A case in point, I'll give you the case of Ms. Sajay, for instance, where in 2013, you have somebody who is voted parliamentarian, and the person's mandate is supposed to expire in 2018. But the person has a presidential clemency because it was nationwide, where all the different parliamentarians and the mayors had 2 years to stay again in office.
Okay, they had a prolongation, eh? Yeah.
A prolongation, that's why I call it clemency, because it's the president who decides to give it to them. Now, the people again, and the same people who may not have delivered to the people are still voted in 2020 to take office to 2025. This is somebody who's worked from 7 years and now 5 years again. Now, if you take 7 plus 5, it's 12 years in the same office. Mr. Leo, if you've not been able to satisfy your people for 7 years, it's not 5 years they're going to satisfy.
Yeah, but my point is maybe the people had never challenged them that you go to parliament, whether you serve us or not. But now you say that the conditions under which they are living is dire. So why not move up to them that even if we do not vote to
Mr. Leo, what we are talking about here is that we are talking about a parliament that has 140 people that make up one political party called the CPDM, and that the other political parties need to share just 40. Now, what effect will one parliamentarian cause in a house that has 179 others? Yeah. I feel that, Mr. Liu, I'm answering your question. What I'm saying here is the fact that the parliamentarians have a call to represent their people. But we should be able to say that since 2016 to 2020, our own parliamentarians, but for Honorable Joseph Wiba, who took it and said it in the parliament, we are still to get parliamentarians who stand in the National Assembly and cry that or maybe take the parliament hostage. It's very true that we've seen some parliamentarians down in the field, like Gala Jarrad. We've seen parliamentarians who go down to the field to ensure that their people have certain didactic materials. But there is one thing I've always asked. Instead of buying bags of rice, instead of giving these people mattresses, instead of giving them books, these people used to live their life. Before 2016, the people used to live their lives without you giving mattresses, without you giving them books, without you giving them rice. What the people need now, Mr. Liu, is just like you send somebody to prison and you're giving the person maybe say 20,000 francs every week. There is nothing that is compared to freedom. What the people in the Northwest and the Southwest want is total freedom and not a repeated bags of rice, or maybe you come and give them books.
What do you mean by they want total freedom?
When I talk of freedom, is that people do not want Monday ghost towns again. That's what I mean, freedom.
Okay.
When I talk of freedom, I mean that the people do not want a situation whereby when you used to leave Bamenda at station at they call it city chemist. As you leave that place, from there to Bali used to be 400. I left that place to go to Bali. I paid 1,000 francs. And even before that, there was no checkpoint. But now there are 2 checkpoints before you get to Bali. And at each checkpoint, if your nose mask is not where it's supposed to be, you pay. So what the people want is, Mr. Liu, what the people want is
for life to return to normal.
Let life go back. The people want to get used to a life whereby they used to go and push their truck and have their 1,000 francs, and they did not complain. They did not ask money from any person.
Okay. But you raised the issue that one parliamentarian cannot cause something. But what if all the people move to their respective parliamentarians that this is what we expect from you? You think it is not going to cause any effect if all MPs from these troubled areas were to take a common stance? A thing that may be very difficult to get. But can they also not move to their respective policies to tell traditional rulers? Because when you are helpless, you run to your father now.
Yes, when you are helpless, you run to your father. But where is the father? Many palaces are deserted. The Fonds and the chiefs are now IDPs hiding either in Douala or in Yaoundé.
But they have representatives, they have regents.
They have regents, and the regents, there are certain traditional rights and things that the regent cannot do. Only the fund can do it. Now, I was saying in another platform that because there were Southwest chiefs who were asking for the boys to come out of the bush. The question I was asking myself, were they the ones who asked the boys to go into the bushes? No. What took the boys into the bushes? Has the problem that took the boys into the bushes been solved? No. Now, we cannot say that the government has done nothing.
What are you saying? Are you saying that if you have 2 children and then they move out to somewhere, you will not bring them back until you explain why they left your house?
If you plant a crop and you take a bed spray and put it on top of it, one day that crop will creep and find its way out to the sun. So if we don't solve this problem and think that we can cover it with whatsoever tactics, 10 years after, 5 years after, 20 years after, it will come back. Because we are modern now. We have said that the government should call for a genuine dialogue, because what they called for in 2019 was not what we expected of the government.
So Modegna, in the structures of Modegna, traditional rulers have no important role to play.
No, they have an important role to play.
Yeah, but you are evasive on what traditional rulers can do.
No, I'm coming.
Okay.
The traditional rulers, first of all, in the Northwest and the Southwest, especially in the Northwest, and majority of them are absent from their palaces. Example, from them, is he in his palace? No. If a man has to have a problem in Sona, are you sure he will start looking for the phone's number? Because not everybody in the village will have the phone's number to call him from Yaoundé and tell him that this is what should be done. Now, when you say I am thinking that the phones are not having their powers or are not doing what they are supposed to do, I will say yes. The evidence is that before this crisis started, Mr. Liu, we had these parliamentarians and these senators, or we, some of them even forced in their villages and chiefs. We had the parliamentarians who were representing their people before this crisis, who had failed to represent their people the way they should. Because if these parliamentarians had represented their people the way they should represent their people, we wouldn't be here today. This crisis would have never erupted. Because people keep saying that we have the problem of living together in Cameroon. that this is a problem of the Northwest and the Southwest. It's the problem of living together. I tell them no, it is not the problem of living together. It is the problem of eating together. Because the people feel cheated in the sharing of the national cake. And this is through the various parliamentarians from the Northwest and the Southwest, Mr. Liu. If these chiefs could not tell these parliamentarians from day one, Mr. Liu, that you are our children, and your brothers and your sisters and your mothers in this village, because it is not today that these people have started clamoring and crying for things. Yeah, they're asking for this, they're asking for this, they're asking for this.
Maybe the chiefs did not see the situation getting to what it is today.
Mr. Liu, at times we need to, the chiefs are spiritual people, first of all.
Okay.
They see into the future. Oh. And if one day you get up from bed and you stand outside and a blind man tells you that I will shoot you with a stone, know that he's likely standing on a stone. So when this thing started from the beginning, he was giving signals that be careful. I remember I told people in one of the meetings in Modena that the way I see this thing in a vision, it will end up in a very bad way.
Yeah, but
what some officials, most of the time when I am tempted to say the government, I would not like to say the government, because when you say the government, you are exaggerating. Because there are people in the government who do their jobs very well. But some officials said that after these guys, the lawyers, will be hungry, they will put back their hopes and go back to court.
Those pronouncements were made 4 years ago. Today we are 2021. We are talking about 2021.
It is as a result of those pronouncements that we are where we are today.
Yes, but should we dwell in the declarations of 4 or 5 years ago? Are you saying that today the chiefs themselves should not think of a way out of the situation?
The chiefs of the Southwest started, as they said, that the boys will come out of the bush. That's their own way out. Because they too, they are helpless. Because when you look critically, look at what happened in the regional elections. Now the House of Chiefs have been recreated. The House of Chiefs have been created. This is the same house, Mr. Liu, that was there in the days of the two Cameroons. There was the House of Chiefs. It has been recreated today. Not under federalism. Are the chiefs going to have the same power they had in those days? No. If this problem has been above the National Assembly to solve, the Senate to solve, are the chiefs going to be the ones to solve the problem? If the National Assembly, that are the representatives of the people of the North and the South, go in the National Assembly, who have our borders from the North and South, if they were unable to table this issue, would the chiefs be the ones to table the issue? I think that the government is a sole personality to solve this problem. They are the organ to solve this problem. Okay. No one else.
Okay, one person has to solve a problem that has two parties.
No, the government declared the war. Through Mr. Bia.
Mr. Liu.
So the issue end the war.
Okay, I'm still looking for that instance where the president declared the war. I don't know how. Yeah.
Mr. Liu, I think that the problem today about the crisis has gone past a certain level. It's just like what used to happen in Africa, where Africans were fighting wars against the whites. It started with normal bow and arrow, it went to catapults, it went to Dane guns, and from there they started using grenades. I feel that the war has gone past a level whereby we should maybe feel that 4 years into it. It's 4 years, true, but we should be able to look at what has been done. It's true that a normal Cameroonian will tell you that, okay, like you cited the Disarmament Commission, you cited the Bilingualism Commission, you cited the creation of OADA, that is, or an ENAM system, not a law that had to do with a legal aspect for the English-speaking Cameroonians. But I feel that the question we should be asking ourselves today as honest Cameroonians, if I were in the government, if I had one part in the government, one thing I would ask any person, or maybe the president, or those who are concerned is, after these repeated things that have been given, it's true so much has been done so far, why is the war still going on?
Yeah, but my question I would like to ask also to Pastor Kennedy, who is watching us, but I want to greet Moja, who is watching us, His Royal Majesty Moja. He says, good evening to you people. This is Chief Moja. I really like the program, but people should not go out of topic. Long live one and indivisible Cameroon. Thanks. Your Royal Majesty, we are glad to know you are following the program. If you have a contribution, send them forth. We are going to be discussing. Dr. Ako John Ako is already in the house also with us. But Pastor Kennedy, my question to you is, if we say the population is helpless, the fact that children have not been to school for 4 years today, isn't that a factor enough for the population to see need to cause an end to what is happening?
I mean, if we are expecting that the population should call an end to what is happening, by implication, we are trying to say that the population caused this thing.
Are we saying that the separatists and the government are insensitive to what the plight of the population? Because when I say cause it is not like declaring that there should be an end. But when you look at the plight of the population, isn't it eloquent enough that children's education, future, has been sacrificed already?
Yes, it's very important. Your question, and I thank you for that question. It's a very important question because it's a question that takes us back to the very beginning of this crisis, and it's a question that cuts into the root causes of this crisis. And those are some of the things that need to be resolved before we can talk about, a genuine return to normalcy. And nobody really knows how that normalcy or what it's going to look like going forward, because the level of fracture that we have amongst us is just too much, especially when we see the outings of Chief Moja. And I mean, although I'm still at the point where I was taken aback by his declaration of trying to pit Northwest people against Southwest. That was really ridiculous and uncalled for. Since he's watching, I have that opportunity to really address him and say, that was really uncalled for. And again, thank God that the Prime Minister intervened and he brought him to order. And I'm sure that people like Moja, who is watching us today, should understand that it is those type of utterances that inflame the situation that we have. Because let's remember, the other regions of Cameroon were calling Anglophones Bamenda. It doesn't matter whether you are a Boya person or you are a Bamenda person. In reality, once you spoke English in Yaoundé or Douala, and to demean you, they'll say, "Regarde le Bamenda là," like, look at that Bamenda, just to ridicule you. So there is if the education of our children was at the center of the interest of those that were governing us, they wouldn't have allowed those teachers that were striking to continue with the strike up to the point where they were put in prison and then caved away for these extremist Ambazonian terrorists to come in. That wouldn't have happened. So my ultimate belief is that the government does not care about the future of our children. There's a point also that was raised with regards to the parliamentarians. But please, let's all be intellectually honest. The problem with most of us is that we have a very short memory. And it brings me to this German philosopher Nietzsche, who said that the man of the future is the person with the longest memory. It's like all of you don't recognize what our MPs, our member of parliament, did to show to the world the bad faith of the regime in Yaoundé. The members of parliament from the Northwest region and some from the Southwest took the rostrum of the National Assembly and of the Senate. They took it hostage for many, many sessions, even chanting terrible chants like, "How many people Pobia go kill? How many people?" In our parliament, this song was sung. So for you, it meant nothing. We just think that people were playing. Now, when you don't stand for people that stand for you, just as this member of parliament stood for us, what do you expect from others? They will just look at you as a people that don't care about those that are staking their lives. Let's look. Honorable Wiba, that we are all celebrating today, wasn't he a parliamentarian that took to the rostrum of the National Assembly and brought to the front line the problems of the northwest and southwest of Cameroon? Wasn't he a parliamentarian? So when we look detailedly into what our parliamentarians did, whether from whatever party they are, in all fairness and to be intellectually honest, the facts are there, the videos are there. I would say kudos, job well done, members of parliament. You did your own role. It didn't move on, not because you didn't do what you were supposed to do, but it's because those to whom you were talking were of bad faith. And Cameroonians, honestly, you would understand that, my fellow Cameroonians, those who are watching us, even from Facebook and all, I see all the egregious comments that you are doing, you are putting. It is this your kind of violent rhetoric that is at the very root cause of the problem. You not only stand here and be blaming the CPDM and Mr. Paul Biya for being violent, for being disrespectful to the human dignity. I read a comment here on your platform. Just to take an example, it doesn't mean anything to me. I have thick skin. I have very thick skin. I've been in this struggle for 25 years. But I just want to take a little parallel, because use your platform to educate Cameroonians. When you stand and you insult somebody who is doing his best, speaking his mind and his opinion, and your response to that person is insult, how different are you from Mr. Paul Biya, who we all know has insulted all of us? You're not different. You all need to be condemned equally. If death sentence is what needs to be given to Mr. Biya, you also who is disrespecting people, insulting people for their opinion. I am expressing my opinion. People should express their opinion. And isn't that the type of British Southern Cameroon that we said that we want, where people are free to express their opinion, when we are free to have divergent opinion? That's what we are saying. And probably we need more education, Mr.
Okay, Pastor. Yeah, Pastor. Severally, I myself have been attacked, especially when you handle a program and people think that you must say one side of the story. They say those things, but it will never deter us to move forward and be objective and do what we have to do. I don't know why.
Congratulations for that.
Yeah. We receive the insults every day. People describe you as this and that, but we are there to do our job, and we continue doing the job. Dr. John Ako is in the house with us. We are looking at the conflict. The population is helpless. Children have not been to school for years today. Do we need to sacrifice any further?
I believe very strongly that, first of all, yesterday I had a program online.
Okay.
Yeah, which I think I was calling on the United Nations, and precisely I directed my program to the United Kingdom.
Okay. That
the people of Southern Cameroon have been abandoned to themselves, and that if there is English language being aired out in this nation, and that if Cameroon is a member of the Commonwealth of Nations, is because of these two regions and because of the British culture. If not of the evil of colonization, these people wouldn't have been a victim under discrimination and marginalization from the present government in Cameroon. For 4 years, we can equally witness that there has been that unwillingness from the government of Cameroon to give a sincere recipe that will quench and stop the killing in the northwest and the southwest region of Cameroon. And that several times. Remember, we were here again about a week ago when I asked very strongly that the head of state in his ordinary or usual address to the nation on the 31st of December assured and guaranteed Cameroonians that peace is gradually returning to the northwest and the southwest region. And I knew very well that such expression from a leader like the head of state was going to cause more of anger to the dogs that were already lying and thinking there was time for them to lay low and again help to bring peace. But what did we see after just that speech? We have lost more than 30 Cameroonians since the 31st of December, if accounts can be kept, and that the same government has been acting abdomen as if nothing is happening. You quite remember again when speeches like the one made by the minister in charge of territorial administration were aired out yesterday in an interview somewhere in Bamenda, telling you that victory is already been sung, and even praises have been given to the head of state to have won the war. Has anybody really won? where we are in Cameroon.
Yes, can we talk about whether it is worthy to sacrifice the education?
That is why I wanted to learn out.
Okay.
That if we can count ourselves and say that we are winning, and we are winning bigly, have we really won? Because we see already that the government has cried very strongly that the budget has contracted and that many projects have been abandoned. And that not just that, but we see lives being lost every day. What adequate decision? A lot of people have, in fact, I met Prince telling us that you cited a lot of successes and equally confirmed and maybe corroborated that the government has done a lot. And when somebody say they have done a lot and nothing is not changing, who are we fooling?
I said the government will say we have done this and that and that.
Yes, good enough that you are now saying that the government will say. And if Prince...
No, that's what I said. That's
yes,
what I said.
It's okay. So good. That is what I'm saying here now, that the right recipe has not been given to the crisis in the Northwest and the Southwest region.
Okay.
Right here, I have said and we have insisted, if for 4 years we cannot talk to one another, there is a need for the international community to come to the assistance of Cameroon, and that we cannot allow that we need to count the number of deaths. We need 20 million to die like they did in Rwanda. We need more than 15 million to die like maybe happened in South Sudan, so that people can let around come on.
Dr. Aku, so you are inviting the international community to come to Cameroon?
I said to solve the problem. There is a need that friends of Cameroon, who are partners that still help Cameroon to finance the projects, and including war arms supplied by some nation. There's a need for them to call Cameroon into order, and that this particular problem, it is above you. We need to get inclusive, sincere dialogue. Remember, the United States Congress has given a ruling on this, and then the British House of Lords has equally given a ruling for the need of a sincere dialogue without precondition. Okay, but when you see what happened, what we call the measure of national dialogue was just a camouflage of something which ended up calling some people just for an agenda to sacrifice. Remember, strong aligned leaders like Agbombala almost quit their own commission in which they were, because the issue of federalism was said not to be discussed. If we were at a dialogue, why there some issues considered taboos not to be talked about? Those things we were not willing to listen are the things that are bringing the nation down. Can we talk about them? Because negotiation means we are all considered to be on the same footing, and that everything that is hurting us, if we feel very strongly that these people are still being hurt, and that for 4 years, all what we have voted and all what we have done, people are still dying. Is there a possibility for us to stop this? And everybody, international community, except the French Republic, which we are still waiting, can they put the government in place to get into a sincere dialogue without precondition, and that all those who were arrested during the crisis be taken out of prison, because the thing that took them to prison were the same things that we are fighting about. Those who dropped their weapons, I said, if government can forgive those who are killed in the name of Amber generals, today found in disarmament centers, can we equally forgive those that even did not carry a weapon to kill a soul? What are people like Mancho BBC doing in prison? When Cameroonians knew that these were the people they were counting on, these were the people that could talk in the name of the people. The same people we are killing now were those who were supporting the coffin revolution of Mancho BBC and many others. Can we get into sincere grounding? If the government is not giving the right recipe, we don't need to ask question. Government is still in support that force can bring order, and we are insisting that there is no nation where issues can be solved by arms. We need a sincere dialogue, inclusive, and that every point is worth negotiating.
Okay, good evening, Leo. This is Mo writing from Yaoundé. I think the people of Bamenda are not serious. If they want this so-called war to stop, they can do it. They are the ones who fuel it to this stage. They should go out on Mondays and go about their activities, see how life has gradually returned to the southwest region. Good evening, Mr. Liu. It's Foba Desmond, and I think for peace to return to normalcy, we need to fight hate speech and change our mentality about the crisis individually. Thanks. Mr. Liu, please extend my regards to my classmate of GBHS in Kmer. In the name of Prince Joel, Foba Desmond is writing from Binka in Kmer. Good evening to you, Foba. Greetings. My media prime lets the government know for the fact that this war is still going on. Elder Akoko is writing from Limbe. Good evening to you all. I am Desmond. I believe the government is not genuine and does not care. But, okay, please, when you write, tell us where you're writing from and your name. Mr. Leo, good evening. I do enjoy your program, but there are certain questions that you usually ask used to annoy people. Why do you ask Prince Joel that what does he mean by total freedom? As if you don't know the type of freedom. Edmond is writing from Amphi. Edmond, I need to be clear. I need to be clear now. That is why I'm a moderator. If not, I have no role here. Many persons are saying I should allow people to talk. You cannot also talk anyhow. The moderator means I need to moderate. Now, let us get to you, Prince Joel. The economy is completely destroyed not completely, to some larger extent, the economy is down. How do we get things? It is the government or the separatists have no responsibility towards what has to be done for peace to return? What if the government says we want this, and the separatists says no? If we are not discussing separation, nothing has to happen.
Mr. Liu, I'm very happy that Dr. Ako joined us, though late. He has elaborated on so many things, which I feel are very, very important. The economy of Cameroon, it's on its knees. Even the president did say it, but where I wasn't too comfortable with him was the fact that he capitalized on COVID-19 as being one of the reasons. COVID-19 was an international issue. Cameroon is just one of those countries that was affected by the coronavirus, and we should not capitalize on it. Mr. Leo, CDC is struggling to pick up again. CDC is dying, and you want to tell me, or you agree with me that CDC used to pump a lot of money into this country, and CDC had employed a lot of people. You would also agree with me that PAMOL, that is today on its knees, has played a very vital role so far as employment is concerned and income in the country is concerned. But where are we today? Recently, CDC struggled to pick up. PAMOL, same case. But you and I, you saw the images on social media, the fingers of people being chopped off, those who still took up courage to go and start back work.
Yes, an estate manager was killed in PAMOL, yeah.
Yeah. So, Mr. Liu, these things are not meant to encourage the few Cameroonians. Mr. Liu, when you go to the Northwest and the Southwest today, when you sell products belonging to this company, Brasseries, without publicity for them, the consequences, yes, the consequences are enormous. Recently, we saw what happened in Likumba, where a bus that was, a truck that was transporting products meant for Brasseries to Cameroon was set ablaze. And even in the Northwest, I was taken aback that, Mr. Liu, we know that the manager for Young Sport Academy, if I'm not mistaken, went to an early grave because it was rumored that he was selling products meant for Brasseries to Cameroon. So the economic impact of the Anglophone crisis is enormous. There is one person I always say, and I'm seeing it today. There is one person who has a way out of the Anglophone crisis. That person is called the government of Cameroon. It is very true that if they call for an end to it, the separatists may give their own conditions. But let us at least give it a chance. Giving it a chance, many school of thought, and even Prince sitting on the panel, we want to say that what happened in Yaoundé from the 30th of September to the 4th of October, called the Major National Dialogue, did not actually have all the rubrics of what a dialogue really looks like. That is why so many persons are calling for another genuine dialogue. Sure, call for a dialogue. And when you call for a dialogue, let it be said that, okay, Chris Sako was brought to board. Let it be said that Sisiko Ayuk Julius Tabe was brought to board. Let it be said that Mancho BBC be brought to the table and say, okay, Mancho BBC, you went into the coffin and this is what you were reclaiming. What do you really want? Let these people be brought to a dialogue table. Without which, I just feel that if we keep creating commissions every day, and what is to an extent not so comfortable with the commissions is the fact that each time a commission is brought up, the same old faces that the people today are accusing the regime for causing the crisis are brought to book. Fayengo Francis, who is the coordinator of the Disarmament Commission, was one time governor. It means that you have a system whereby the same old faces are brought to book. The bilingualism chair was one-time minister in this country. I feel that, Mr. Leo, if we really want to bring an end, I'm speaking like somebody who's been in the Northwest, who's been in the Southwest, and I've had to talk with the common man. I mean, one mama who is selling just cocoyams, who is selling tomatoes. Ma, to you, what do you think can be done for the crisis to end? They have what they are saying. The government is not ignorant, because when we say some of these things, Mr. Leo, the government is not ignorant of what the people down there need. The government is fully aware. The question we ask ourselves is, why not implement what the people want?
Okay.
Because, Mr. Leo, the separatists do not actually have that power. The separatists attack from what I call hide and seek. Because I was with a reverend with the Presbyterian Church recently, where I attended a seminar on peace journalism. And he was like, our car left Matazem just 2 minutes before the attack. It therefore means that what happened at Matazem was something that wasn't planned. These guys have a way they do things. They hit and they go back to the bushes. The person who patrol is the government. And if the government wants the crisis to end, it's going to end even tomorrow.
Okay. Now, somebody writes, let me take this one. Good evening, Mr. Leonard, and to all the gentlemen in the studio. Let me chime in a bit. To all Cameroonians, be you Anglophone or Francophone, expecting anything from the Cameroon government, that person is not living this world. Cameroon government is governed by France, which is a fact. Okay. Raymond is writing from the United Arab Emirates. Good evening, Mr. Leo. This is Evangelist Vicky writing from Bamenda. I thank God for your boldness. Please, we know the government has failed to solve this problem. And my question now is, what are the leaders in the diaspora doing?
The leaders in the diaspora?
Yes.
We are in Cameroon. We are unable to solve the problem in Cameroon. We are expecting those who are living out of Cameroon to come and solve the problem.
Okay.
Now, look, Prince Joel said, he made it very clear that if the government wants to solve this problem, she will solve the problem. Because the government knows what to do. Because Mr. Bia have a mastery of this problem more than maybe you and I here.
Okay, you are not answering my question.
No,
you are rather
you are
commenting on what he said.
I am commenting, Mr.
Okay,
Leo.
okay.
Now, when you look critically, you realize that this government, they are not willing. They are not willing to solve this problem. Those who find themselves in the diaspora, they are somehow powerless. What they can do is only give propositions that the government may directly or indirectly implement to see that the problem is solved. Now, when you look critically, they created the commission of disarmament. They created the bilingualism commission, right? All these commissions, as Prince said earlier, we keep hearing the same name and seeing the same faces. At a given point in time, we are tempted to think that some group of individuals decide to compensate themselves for maybe loyalty's sake or whatsoever. But they decide to share the country, that you take this share since you are no more in office of responsibility, since you are now on retirement, since you are no more a governor or a minister, just take this one and sit there so that you can be having some funds. If not, how come that people who have failed to tell the government that this is what our people back at home are asking for, this is what they are crying for, are the same people who are still sent to go and manage the affairs that they have failed to present to the government? So the will is not there. The government is not willing at all to solve this problem. They have allowed the Anglophone, because I was asking myself today that what have the Anglophones done to merit this?
Okay, you've asked the question. He does not want to answer my question. Pastor, somebody is writing from Bamenda. She is asking what the leadership out there in the north, in the diaspora, what are they doing to sing into it that we should solve this problem in Cameroon? Because anytime the Cameroon government says we want to solve the problem, they say no, you cannot solve it alone without the leadership out there. But when you ask the question about the leadership, they say no, they have nothing to say.
Yeah, I mean, now the leadership, or let's say Cameroonians of the diaspora, they might not have the most important role to play, but however, because they are citizens of Cameroon, they have a role. to play, like any other Cameroonian. So the most important actors in this is those who are back home, because they feel the pinch of the salt more than any other group of Cameroonians. And I'll piggyback on what you were saying, or what the other co-panelists were talking about, which is something that must seriously be taken into consideration when we're looking for the way forward, or when we are assessing some of the stumbling blocks towards a solution. We should all know that there is something that is called the economy of war. Now, once you know the concept of economic of war, the first thing that you want to do is to identify who are the beneficiaries of the economy of war. Because war is big business. Many people get enriched because of war. There's the trade in weaponry. It means there are retro commissions, and there are all kinds of bids that's going on in the war. There's a huge budget. So who are the beneficiaries? Are these beneficiaries part of the problem? And how can we make them part of the solution? And when we look in Cameroon, most of those who are finding this crisis, as the person who spoke before me said, they're in all these commissions. And every time these commissions meet, there are allowances that are paid out. And now, when we are also talking about the international community, because I want to bring it down, there is the military-industrial complex, which is really at the center of the new world order. That's something that when we are saying that we need the international community to step in this problem, we should also factor that same international community is feeding out of the crisis that's in Cameroon. It means the blood of Cameroonians is fertilizing the investment of the industrial military complex. China is giving armory to the Cameroonian government. The Americans are training the bee. The French are involved in supplying weapons. The guns that they are using to fight, those guns are not manufactured in our country. We don't have the capabilities to manufacture those guns. It's a lot of money. War is a lot of money. That is why I say this issue, especially when we are at the point of transition, because we have to get a bigger picture. We of the Northwest and Southwest region have to get a bigger picture of it. There is a transition that's about to occur in Cameroon by virtue of the age even of the president of Cameroon, Mr. Biya, no matter how strong he is. And we wish him well. And the best wishes that we have for him, by God's grace, that man cannot still be there in 10 years. 10 years in the life of a nation is something that's as small as this. So they already know what's coming. One of my theories is they pushed in this war so that they would justify all the garbage that has been going on in Cameroon for years. Because with this war, they can easily justify that this amount of resources was being spent because they were fighting war. So it's a conundrum. So we of the diaspora, all what we can do is what I am doing right now. Speak up my mind, and I'll call on our other diasporans. Let's be mindful of the fact that those who are home, they don't have the same level of protection that we have. Their level of exposure is high. Don't expect them to say some of the things that you are saying. When they speak like this panelist, I am just so amazed by all the three panelists that I have there. I give my heart to you. You epitomize what I call boldness in the face of adversity. And you are speaking truth to power. Because what you say is what we are saying. But some people don't care about life. We care about life. When some of us see how our people are dying, we are asking, What is the alternative to a gruesome conflict like this? What's the alternative? The alternative is for us all from the Northwest and Southwest region to come together, put our heads together, harness our resources. Non-violence works. Non-violent work in India. Non-violent work in South Africa. Non-violent work in America with regards to the civil rights movement. It has a lot of potential that we can use. That's what we of the diaspora should be preaching. A credible alternative to the crisis.
Okay. I'll come back to you, Dr. Ako, John Ako. You say yesterday you did an outing calling for the international community to come. When you talk about the international community, you're talking about the US, the UK, France, Germany, the United Nations. Are you overlooking the potency of African diplomacy?
It has failed, and has failed woefully.
Okay.
And I said at the very beginning of the creation, the mindset of the African Union was to bring peace and long-lasting peace within the African continent, and that Africans could learn to solve their own very issue within themselves. I believe Mahamat, the president of the African Union Commission, has been to Cameroon twice, and his visit has ended in Yaoundé. And if such a visit could end in Yaoundé, and conclusions made within the Unity Palace, there is equally a meaning that the African Union does not even know the environment that is playing with. There is a need, I remember, to get in line with Professor Plo Lumumba of the University of Nairobi, that calls for a need for a fact-finding mission of the African Union to the crisis in southern Cameroon. All of us agreed with him. How will Africa implicate himself when France still toil behind and make the decisions abroad within the corridors of Élysée? I'm telling you that we are not minding this. Many Africans know. Remember the then president of Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe, had to sell cattle to raise funds for the African Union because Africans, some presidents and a host of leaders were unable even to contribute the meager that nations are supposed to contribute for the work in fund of the African Union. Are these people really sincere? We were talking some few days ago about a common currency for the Africans of the French or France, Afrique. And today you still find some African leaders telling you that the France CFA is doing relatively well and it's a currency that is stable, when the whole community is telling you that it is not correct. The people we find today in Africa and many others represented at the level of the African Union, I will tell you that they will not do anything better with many crises around. Remember those who ended the crisis in Rwanda. They were not the French. It was not the African Union. Remember those who ended the crisis in Sudan. It was the United Nations. And I believe now very strongly that one of the highest partners to Cameroon will have the EU, we have the United States of America, then you add Germany, the UK, and the rest. But now, where we are, after we have received strong statements from Germany, we have received strong statements from the United States, from the UK, and then you find that person who even controls the politics, economic, social, and cultural meaning in Africa, the French Africa, the French Republic, through its own president, becomes so mute. I mean, up to now, the French government has not pronounced any. They
issued a statement after
the president is not issuing a statement. President Macron told us and Cameroonians that he gave an order and the president of MRC party was released, which equally means that if there is a need to bring an end in the crisis in the Northwest and the Southwest region, a statement from Élysée means that at the level of diplomacy, there are certain statements that will mean and carry a lot of weight. If taken the next day that I give you 48 hours, remember, I used to admire the then president of the United States, George Walker Bush, when he said 48 hours for
Saddam.
Not Saddam. There was Saddam. There was a guy in Haiti, Jean-Bertrand Aristide. There was a guy in Liberia, I don't know, who is presently at the International Criminal Court. He gave all of them 48 hours, and we knew what happened after the expiration of those 48 hours. 4 years is too much for France. Imagine when Donald Trump gathered Republicans at Capitol, I saw a strong statement from the French Republic that they today realize that one of the partners that have signed the agreement for peace and human rights respect throughout the world, who is a partner to the French Republic, today deviated from those same values which they have respected. So killing in Cameroon for 4 years is not enough, but a simple march past in Capitol just within 24 hours caused the French Republic and even its leader to express feeling of deception on the value of human rights. Are we really serious? Can we? I said my meaning yesterday because I know the United Kingdom has been a modeled nation really when it comes to human rights because they have fought a lot. And when we look at the formation of the Commonwealth of Nations, the value was to protect English, which is the operating language. Every member of the British Commonwealth of Nations is a member with the spoken language of English. And if Cameroon is a member, it's because of the English language. Yes, please. Okay. When we look at the United Nations today, we realize 2 motions at the United Nations Security Council and the Human Rights Commission have been cancelled because some members are still thinking that the issue is still for Cameroon to manage. Russia vetoed, China vetoed, and sometimes the partial members, like Equatorial Guinea too, said it's not yet time for intervention. But I'm telling you that my heart bleeds when I saw the images coming from Mautu some few weeks ago. You need to be a sadist to still command military to go somewhere. You still, to me, a sadist to command weapons to these 2 regions. I just had images today somewhere coming around Lebielem, they call Chang, another small village. We need to see it maybe by tomorrow, that 2 women also were killed and slaughtered in cold blood while walking in the farm. It is really disheartening. I am insisting and still saying that time is now. Let's stop the killing. Any means.
What if the international community is not coming anytime soon? What happens? The population keep dying?
The population will keep on dying, Mr. Leo, because we are saying in the past that the person who blows the pipes, calls or pays the piper, calls the tune. The military, which is in the forefront. Now, remember the international community said there's a need for a ceasefire. That's what Guterres said. That for us to end this crisis, there is need for the ceasefire for all these fronts. I was equally happy with the proposal that the other co-panelists in the US said. That what some of us believe. I have read the books of Mahatma Gandhi. I have believed in the spirit of Martin Luther King Jr., who believe that we can achieve at times what we want by simple disobedience. Meaning, if we stop the killing and decide that today is Nation Cup, we are not going to watch the event. Just imagine hosting a match in Limbe and tomorrow nobody is found in the stadium. But we are not fighting. We are not having weapons. It sends a better message. If there's a university in Boya and we decide today that we are not going to that university because we feel that our rights are intimidated without using a weapon, that message should be stronger than any other. In another light, which many people don't know, remember, just look at a simple disobedience from senators and parliamentarians from southern Cameroon staying back at home at a session and writing a letter to Yaoundé that will not come until our people stop dying. We don't need a weapon.
Okay.
There are ways which the population, what I'm telling you, the population by itself is helpless. Where you find 2 elephants fight, what happened? It is normal that the grasshopper, the grass.
Yeah, but how do you want the population to send the message to one side? How do you send it to the other side?
I am talking of both sides. We are talking of both sides. Nobody is supposed to use weapons. Now I'm talking of non-violence. When I talk of non-violence, I'm not talking of the side of the government. Non-violent policies is on the side of those who feel that they suffer the most. That we're not going to use arms, but we don't have those arms to use, but we can equally cause civil disobedience. Just imagine a simple ghost town. How government is fighting to overcome ghost town. On ghost town day, we don't see weapons. People simply decide to stay at home.
The ghost town is a message is passed to the government. But how do you pass the message to the other side?
The other side, which is the separatists, now that we are within it, sincerely, they too said it's a give and take. That the person who first of all declared war has not declared ceasefire. Which means somewhere, if there's a call up for a ceasefire, let's wait and see their own response. Really, Mr. Leo, I just made a statement here that before even 31st, you could believe with me that even your own village of whom was calm until the negative incident which happened just after Christmas. You could believe with me that a lot of these speeches instead anger people at times who were even thinking of that the solution finally we can stroll around town. That is what we are saying.
Okay.
In many places where we thought they were separatist stronghold, people have adopted a new way of life. And people knew that the only day they could not deviate with was their Monday. which becomes a civil disobedient action. And I believe very strongly that some of those separatists today are even with us in Douala, who have dropped their weapons but have not gone to disarmament centers, but decide to take a new life, which means a lot of them believe now that the way forward is not war. And the government has not identified those. And some people don't want to be victims of TV cameras coming closer to them so that tomorrow they become what? Agents of propaganda. There are a lot of ways we can come out. A lot of separatists have dropped their weapons, whom the government is not even aware, but we know them, and all of them are feeling free and having a lot of calm life otherwise. Some have really socially integrated in the society and making it otherwise. We are pleading, because I still insist that no matter what we will talk, government owns the highest force and government controls the policy. The thing went to the level it is because there was a special command that terrorists have attacked the nation. But we said these were not terrorists. These were Cameroonians, people who are hungry, people who need development, people who need employment, people who feel abandoned, cheated, and marginalized. And these issues all are political, and the solutions to these problems are political solutions. The government that be can call for a sincere dialogue. When things are sincere, like I said, we will not need to talk again. You will see the positive side of it. We will not need people fighting again. The solution will come by itself.
We just have 25 more minutes. We have to discuss very briefly on our second topic, which has to do with the saga between FIFA, the Tribunal for the Arbitration of Sports, and FECAFOOT. Pastor Kennedy, were you once again surprised when this decision came just at the eve of the commencement of Shan in Yaoundé?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Leonard, Mr. Coom. Please, just before I answer this question, there's a very, very important point that I want to make on this very sensitive issue of the Southern Cameroon's problem. And Dr. Akko really raised it up. I just want to re-echo this and to tell everybody that it is very important that we understand that the international community that we are all calling is at the very center of the problems that we have today. It is that same international community that we are calling the United Nations that put us in this conundrum, because let's all remember that it is the international community that imposed plebiscite questions on us. They never gave us the second alternatives. And I can send you to Resolution 1282 of the United Nations of 5th of December 1958, where you see all the conspiracy. And I'm going to read to you an article of the Charter of the United Nations so that you would understand that the international community that we are looking at, it's a great mafia that is there for the preservation of the interests of a few. And that few, they even call them the Security Council. This is what Article 76B of the Charter of the United Nations says. And you will see the ambivalence in it. It says that, talking about the Trusteeship Committee, the United Nations is to promote the political, economic, social, and educational advancement of the inhabitants of the trust territories and their progressive development towards self-government or independence. These two words in an article of the Charter of the United Nations talking about trusteeship. What do you call self-government? What do you call independence? This is where I say, and I reiterate this point, we should be the ones, I beg all of you, people of Southern Cameroon, Africans, let's stop this worshipping and expectations from an international community that has nothing else but the preservation of interest. Let our people rise up peacefully. We can change things as it was done in India, as it was done in South Africa, as the Black Americans did. If we had non-violence, that everybody comes out. Our people, we are tired. We are tired. If we had non-violent pacific action that everybody gets involved in, that is a credible alternative that we are suggesting. Because if everybody comes out, do you know what happens? We take power away from the regime extremists, and we take power away also from the amber extremists and put the power in the hands of the people that come out. There is nobody that can win a war against a people. This thing is happening to us because we are sitting and watching as spectators while others are the actors. So that's what I wanted to say. But coming to the TAS, the Tribunal of Arbitration for Sports, it still cuts into this international conspiracy mafia that exists. Just take this little example with the sport thing. The TAS, which is the International Arbitration Body for Sport, yes, took a decision that they are suspending the current executive of FECAFOOT. That's, in essence, that was their resolution. And that they should put a normalization committee that would come out with a new charter that will govern elections of FECAFOOT. That's the international community. What did the other part of the international community that is called FIFA do? FIFA turned around for its selfish interest and said, okay, since you suspend this executive of FECAFOOT and you are asking us FIFA to supervise the institution of a normalization committee. So we are taking the decision as FIFA that those that were the executive of FECAFOOT would just be transposed into that normalization committee, and it continue. What a shame! That's the international community that we think that will come and save us. No, we should be serious.
We've had a first normalization under Professor Owona. We had another normalization, and seemingly another normalization. People are already positioning themselves to go and work. Well, how do we understand this? Is it that they don't understand the text? Oh, it is a game of clans that are seeking to manage Cameroon's football.
Mr. Liu, when I look at the Cameroon Federation for Football, when I look at what is happening at FECAFOOT, it's really shameful that on the day we are receiving 15 other countries to play football, show what we have so far as football is concerned, is the day that the Court for Arbitration of Sports decides that a team that has been working for years should not work. When this decision came up on my Facebook page, I'll come to your question, Mr. Lee. On my page, I asked myself certain questions. One, why today? Could that decision not have come before or after? Why should we take that decision only when we have 15 other countries that have got to do in the business of football in Cameroon? Secondly, this decision is coming at a moment where you have the well-governing football body, FIFA, and its representative in Cameroon. So, Mr. Leo, when you look at what is happening at the FECAFOOT, it is what is happening in all sectors in Cameroon. It's just an issue of interest because it's not the text. The people, they are aware of the text. That is why when Seydou Momonjoa came to office, precisely I think it should be 10 October 2018, from that same day, there were people who protested, people who said no. They held Dieudonné Happy, by then who was the president of the Normalization Commission. Take to note that this is somebody who had a very close link with one of Cameroon's finest footballers, Samuel Eto'o. It means that even when Dieudonné came as the president of the Normalization Commission, many Cameroonians, or committee rather, many people had already said he walked his way because of his own godfather. And even when Seydou Momonjoa took up the position, there was still these complaints because the first day he took office, people were like, why him? Protests came from that day. The problem is not the text. Cameroonians know the text. The problem is at the level of applicability. And applicability becomes a problem because certain people have the umbrella of political godfathers.
Yeah, but they are not respecting the text because it is the text that the TAS is using to annul the elections.
Now, TAS would have used this case before he comes to office because they are not ignorant. How do you say that?
No. TAS is reacting to a petition that came after the elections. If nobody petition the elections, TAS will not take any
and
decision.
it's Abdurrahman, who is now making the boss of all the social platforms, that he is the one that petitioned. But Ms. Aliu, I believe that Cameroon has gone past this. The issue, if we are where we are today, is an issue of interest. It is just because somebody's interest has not been satisfied. If the people's interests were satisfied, we would not have even known that the laws were not applied. And here we are today, FIFA says that instead of a normalization committee, that Seydou and his executive stays in office till election. Where are we? Who are we fooling? You make laws and you broke them when you want.
Yes, okay. When huge sums of money are paid for a committee to normalize Cameroon's football, another team comes to normalize the same football, and then TAS tells the world that the job that was done was null and void. You people did not respect this. Should the government not sanction people for not doing their job?
You remember that government, most often than not, football throughout the world is said to be something pre-independent from government intervention. And you remember, if government interfere within sporting activities, especially football, there is always that act that FIFA sanctions even the country concerned. What we are seeing equally is like there's an issue of what we call FIFA Gate, like that which happened in Zurich that took the whole administration of FIFA out of power. And I'm believing very strongly that FIFA too has a problem in what is going on in Cameroon. There was Francois Appeal, like you put, there was equally Joseph Owona Commission, and if all those commission normalization committee could fail, now the next normalization committee, who are those going to be there? Same another group of people who come to eat their own money because there's a budget for normalization committee to manage before handing power to the executive.
They should I'm praying that they should appoint me there.
No, yes. When you look, when you look at the social media platform, some people have already sent messages offering themselves as free will volunteers to be presidents of that particular commission, which means FIFA is taking Cameroon for a child's play. Is there no other procedure at the level of FIFA that after the executive members have been voted, certain particular number of days or hours should be given for petition, and that when these people have taken office, there is no other petition when this executive that has been voted is in office? I believe there should be that time. If there is no time, then FIFA too, if you look at the timing when this particular decision was passed by TAS, it gives me an indication that Infantino was to come to Cameroon and many others. At the same time, the CAF president is suffering an impeachment from FIFA. What is the problem with the management of FIFA? Does it mean that FIFA has failed to put into place or to lay down transparency rules in everything that they do? This is the third normalization committee that Cameroon may be going through. Should we pass all our time and that the tussle between FECAFOOT and the national or whatsoever professional football league is just becoming a problem? That for more than 9 months, some players who are presently, in fact, I was even embarrassed that Cameroon even selected a team to participate in the present CHAN which they are hosting without seasoned football played by these same people. How? And how was the selection taken into consideration? They will tell you that these players were selected from their last year performances, when others who are participating in the same league had just finished 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago in their various leagues, and they are now present in an active competition. Should FIFA not look into new methods of handling issues of this nature? Or was TAS created by FIFA to frustrate, national federations? If this is the case, then there is a need for TAS to maybe give this ruling for national courts, and that the decisions of national court should stay or become more powerful than any other rule. Within everything we do, within everything we say, FIFA is a whole scam of money launderers, and at one time, some people feel like it is time for them to eat. So when people talk of Abdurrahman, we have even forgotten that Abdurrahman was the Secretary General when Iya Mohammed was the president of FECAFOOT. All these guys failed. For how long were they in power? Until when this particular confusion came into activity. Now he is the one contesting the legality of several texts that were not respected. Where was he when those elections were organized? Could those things not be pointed and elections withheld or annulled before even the executive get into office? Why do we tend to frustrate many federations throughout, and Cameroon in particular? There is a need for TAS. If TAS cannot give timing ruling, I insist that such rulings and petitions should be used by the national courts, because most often than not, we believe that TAS was going to render definite positions, but if TAS keep on annulling his own very decision from the time the texts were made to when the texts were implemented, and again years after you come to annul, it's a mess. There is a need to make up TAS, if at all we annul it, or consider TAS as a first instance, while national courts become the last option. So it will be better. Remember our elections in Cameroon, when all evidence were presented at the level of the Supreme Court or the Constitutional Council, it was non-fondé or irrecevable, and the decision was not appealed. This is before the president took office. And after the office of the president, nobody has challenged the legitimacy of the president. Should this not also become applicable at the level of TAS, that after every election, there should be some number of days for petitions should be made before the members are installed into office. There is a fiasco at the level of the FIFA, and that FIFA should lay down strict census clear rules on the procedure of petition and how this should be done.
Pastor Kennedy, are we not witnessing a game, a clash of clans in Yaoundé, all seeking to position their own and sacrificing Cameroon's football? Okay, it's gone off. Okay, we hear that. Yes, isn't it a clash of clans? Yeah.
Sure, Mr. Liu, sure. Because ever since Abdurrahman put up this fight, it's true he's the one that acted as an eye-opener into the illegality that happened at the level of FECAFOOT. But now, when you look at those who follow him and those who applaud for him, he was on a radio station today, I think Radio Sianto, where he said that FIFA cannot come into, FIFA cannot impose Seydou, or rather Seydou Mbombojoya, that lawyers are going to take up the case and are going to see that the law is enforced. And after he made this statement, I think that presidents of local football clubs in Cameroon stormed this TAS office today. They were in front of the office demanding that the law should take its course. But I feel that everything that is happening at the level of Cameroon football, Mr. Leo, is just an example of what is happening on so many sectors in the country. We're talking about somebody who took up the president of the professional league, General Pierre Semenge. And later on, it was ruled that Pierre Semenge had won him. And do not forget that Pierre Semenge too at one time made a statement that you are a younger man and we're going to see how far you're going to go into this race. Then Pierre Semenge should be jubilating wherever he is that you wanted to step on my toes and see where you are today. What is happening at the level of FECAFOOT, Mr. Leo, is it's an issue of who has the backing of who. Because even if you bring another person, someday there will still be another document for the person or another contestant to say you did not come into office legally. I just believe that Cameroon has gone past this level of talking about normalization commissions or committees. We had one, it failed. The second failed. Because if you have TAS today coming to say that Seydou Mbombojoya did not fulfill the conditions to be the president of the FECAFOOT, the question you ask yourself, what did Dieudonné Happy do as the president of the normalization committee?
And what did Professor Ouna
do? And the question now we're still asking ourselves is, how secured or how confident are we that should another normalization commission be put in place, will the next president not still fall short of certain weaknesses? It's just an issue of who has got which godfather. I believe that this is a glaring example to show Cameroonians and the world at large that if Cameroon has not been able to show its football savoir-faire, it may be because of things like this. Because you have people who do not meet up with the text, who are heading up the country's football. And because they are heading, they may too also want to bring in their own brothers into the football saga.
So this is an opportunity for another clan to position their persons. But how do we go past a possibility of a foot normalization committee? How do we get things definitely fixed?
Yeah, it is FIFA. Remember, it has been happening in many other regions, and since it is coming within the atmosphere of the International Football Federation, considering that Cameroon is hosting a bigger event now, I believe it is a more reason they don't want to frustrate the executive that were in power, and equally promising to them that they give them that confidence to maintain until a new body is appointed, which meaning for the purpose of Shan, they will rule this period and take the decision necessary. So FIFA has always a way of going out, and they are going to still appoint a new commission. But what we are crying now is that this commission, which is going to take the normalization process, if there is nothing wrong with the text, what is the normalization committee going to function for? Because if we have annual just election, can FIFA not just instead ask for the implementation, application of the text they are already in place?
Organize new, fresh
just
elections,
that's what they're
respecting
saying.
the text.
Just organize new elections, respecting the text that were made. But now, since, as I said at the beginning, there's going to be a budget to manage. How will they manage a budget, meaning elections to be organized in 60 days? Some people would say that, no, the last normalization committee took 6 months. So why is ours just 60 days? Because I don't want to think that the problem is a problem of text. So why then we delay? Or FIFA should come by itself with its own experts to monitor, like we do with national elections. That would mean ElecCam brings in other partners to assist them in observing the process, rather than staying behind, than waiting for petitions to be made later. There is a need for us, like what I'm saying, not to spend huge amount of money that we simply annul the normalization committee, appoint a new commission to oversee elections, and give some few days for them to organize this election. Because, like we said, everybody agreed that the problem was that texts were not followed. So normalization should not go again in formulating new texts. They should instead go straight to elections, and let's see how clean the elections will be. So that FIFA should not have a problem that the texts were not respected. Observance of FIFA, I don't know if they were not even present on the day elections were held in Cameroon. Because if they were FIFA representative, why then why do we keep on reporting the twisting? So it should be maybe an act of FIFA gate, that even the FIFA executive members that were present were equally involved in the football politics or football finance manipulation. So we need a new normalization committee, not for the text, but just for the purpose of election. If that can be done at the level of FIFA, it will spare us time and spare us some money. We are organizing an event in less than 12 months. January 2022, there is another bigger event. We need to concentrate on how we are making African proud, rather than spending time on normalizing. If normalization committee need to take again 6 months, remember, we'll be short of already of 6 months of preparing to the next event.
Okay, we have to end at this juncture for today's edition of Prime R. Pastor, if Pastor is back, we want to say thank you for taking part in the program today. Oh, Pastor is not back. Thank you for coming, Jones.
It's always my pleasure. It's always my pleasure, and I will say here that the government should see into solving the Anglophone problem, because the more we delay, the more dangerous it becomes. Because we remember that in early 2016, we had people with peace plans from there to 10 guns, and now they're carrying AK-47 and improvising bombs. We don't know what waits for us in the future. So it is better we solve this problem now and stop these killings. I would like to say good evening to Mr. Foku of Balibao, who is watching us from Bamena. Okay.
Thank you to you, Prince, for coming.
Mr. Liu, I was taken aback that when Seydou Momojoya's office was called to an end, people who are who are parliamentarians said they are ready to take that office of the normalization committee. Yet they will not discuss the Anglophone crisis in the National Assembly. Yet they will not take it upon themselves that I want to go to Bamenda and bring a solution. It's our country we're getting used to. It's always a privilege being on board, Mr. Leonard. Special good evening to Acho Daniel, who is the president or the main administrator of the Misaje Dynamic Youth, and to all those who took time in Misaje to watch the program. It's always a privilege being on board.
Okay, thank you for coming.
Yeah, Mr. Leo, I said it's a pleasure, and once again, I will still beg on the head of state, the guarantor of state institutions, the chief magistrate, the chief first commander of the armed forces, that the solution to solve the Anglophone problem remains with him, and only him can the people of Cameroon listen.
Okay.
We wait a sincere solution, and that should be a Cameroonian problem. That should be a Cameroonian solution that will bring an end to the killings. It is really 4 years. It is really hard to believe that Cameroonians are still dying.
Thank you to all of you who worked so hard for the production of this program. To you, Eli and Desmond, and Bertrand, and to you, Kaiser, Michelle, and also to you, Tambe Bryant. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.